But it's the people. It's the people that I got to meet, right? Yourself, and I'm not. If I started naming names, I know I would feel bad because I'll forget someone. But there are folks that, when we were state directors, Jeff, in 2009 and 10, then more recently as regionals. Like, these are individuals. I've been gone almost 2 years from AFP. There are lots of individuals I'm still in contact with. Very, very good friends. And what's cool about an organization like AFP is because you're nationwide, right? I mean, these are folks, I built friendships because of my work in Nebraska, all across the state with, policy champions, grassroots activists. I got to build relationships and friendships across the state and across the country with other AFP staff. In fact, and one thing that's kind of cool just happened last week, the ripple effect of that, right? And just how God blesses you in your life.
Americans are capable of achieving extraordinary things when they have the freedom and opportunity to do so. This is American Potential. And here's your host, Jeff Crank.
Well, thanks for being with us on another episode of American Potential. Appreciate you joining us. In some workplaces, co-workers aren't just people you see from 8 to 5. They become your work family. These are the individuals who stand by you through it all, celebrating your wins, helping you through tough times, and making the daily grind feel a little less like work. Now, I can tell you, after 15 years of being with Americans for Prosperity and their network, the Americans for Prosperity has the feel of a work family, whether we're at a retreat or we're hitting the streets to knock on doors, to talk with our neighbors. Every time we come together in a big or a small group, it feels more like a family reunion than just a job. Because of our unique work environment of connecting with our communities and traveling the country and pushing back against government overreach, some friendships are created that continue long after someone has moved on to a new chapter in their life. Today, I want to talk to a former AFP employee who started back in 2009 and now is working as the state director for United States Senator Pete Ricketts. I want to welcome my friend, Brad Stevens, to the podcast. Brad, thanks for being here.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for having me. Good to see you, man.
Yes, you too. This is a big moment for you. I mean, you've been trying to get on this show for ever since episode 1. We're now past episode 200, and finally, you made it. Congratulations.
You got to the very, very bottom of your Rolodex, eh, Jeff?
Yeah, we kind of ran out. We just needed somebody to do filler, and I thought of you. So
yeah, no, this is still a big moment for me. I really appreciate it. Absolutely. No, obviously, seriously, I know the podcast has been huge. American Potential has been huge. So congratulations to you and your team.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great team that works on it, and we're excited about what's been happening. We're excited about the future of it, and so. But anyway, I mean, for those who don't know, I mean, Brad, you and I have been friends since really the very first meeting at AFP when we met each other. I guess that was 2009. That's when I started with Americans for Prosperity. Why did you decide you wanted to hang out with me? I can't ever figure out or explain why I decided to hang out with you. So maybe you can do it.
I've asked the same question to Lisa Crank, your wife, and I've never gotten a good answer.
Yeah,
I'm not sure I have a good answer. No, I think, I think back to, 2009, 10, those early days for us and AFP. Goodness, AFP at that point was only, 5 or 6 years old. So still young in the organization. And I think, when you do grassroots, you have to, you have people who are very passionate about a subject, politics, that a lot of people kind of a little squeamish about, right? When you do grassroots, you're working nights and weekends. You're working hard, and you have to invite people to events. You have to speak at events, speak in public, speak on the radio, on TV. Like, you have to be a very outgoing personality. And so when I went to some of those first, we call them state director meetings, you bring in all the AFP state directors from across the country into Scottsdale, right, Arizona. And you go to those meetings, and there were a lot of very, very outgoing personalities. May I say, dare I say, brash, kind of loud personalities. And I think what kind of, what stood out is well, Jeff, you're no wallflower, right? You're still and you're from Colorado, still kind of more Midwestern, a little bit maybe more low key than a lot of the others. And of course, we have got hunting and fishing in common and, border states. I'm from Nebraska, you're from Colorado. So it just kind of made sense early on. We had a couple of things in common and personalities kind of clicked. And it's been, so I enjoyed. And, I'd also say if you listen to this podcast, I think one of the things that has made American Potential successful, Jeff, is how you make it about your guests. You make it about their stories. You don't make it about yourself. But when people get to know you, you're a very good storyteller. And that's why this podcast has been successful, and you help people share their stories. And you're very funny. So it's just an easy personality to get along with. And so we've been, friends ever since.
Well, that's very kind of you. And I can assure you, Brad, this podcast is going to be about you. It's not going to be about me. It's going to be about, there's no doubt.
Call coming in. I'm sorry. I got to go. The senator needs me. I don't know. I got to go.
Yeah. Well, listen, no, I appreciate you, and right back at you. I've often said about you to many people, you're very self-deprecating. That's kind of your deal, but in a fun way, in a way, I think you've been a kind of a humble leader of people in the way that you do that. You kind of make fun of yourself a little bit here and there. We might even do a little bit of that today on the show. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway,
I'm looking forward to this, Jeff. It's going to be great.
Okay. So do you have any one of the great door knocking experiences that I always love to tell folks about Americans for Prosperity, because we do a lot of door knocking and, trying to get out and talk to folks in the communities. One of my great ones that I love is a guy named Wiz Rizard from Nevada when he was in Colorado, and he knocks on the door, rang the doorbell, and this gigantic dog came tearing out, and he went running as fast as he could. And he's pretty fast, I can say that. And he ended up having to jump on the hood of a car. Of course, all of it got caught on a Ring doorbell, and then someone put it on TikTok. And one of our employees' nephews was watching TikTok and goes, "Hey, isn't that Uncle Wiz?" I just love that story. But tell me, do you have any good door knocking experiences that you might share with us?
Yeah, a couple come to mind. One, it's not really my story. I was with the team in Iowa, and one of the members of our team was, and you're doing these surveys. It was very early in the year before the election. What you're trying to do is identify individuals that might be either with you on issues or persuadable on issues, right? So very early, just kind of understanding how people are thinking about issues that are coming up. And then you might go back to that door later once you know what issues they care about. And if it lines up with the candidate that you're supporting, you'll say, "Hey, you told me you believed in school choice. Do you know that candidate Jane Doe also believes in school choice?" Just extend the conversation. That's part of the strategy. So we're having the member of the Iowa team was at the door. They were having a great conversation with the voter at the door, absolutely with us on all of the issues, very pleasant. And then all of a sudden, so they're like, okay, they're with us. Now it's time to switch to see if they be with us with the candidate. And they said, "Well, would you support this person if we told you where they stood on the issues?" And all of a sudden the face just dropped. Like you told them their dog died or something. The face just dropped. And the conversation took a turn. And they said, "What was that name?" And they go, "That's my husband's ex-wife." So I'm not sure we persuaded that voter. But I've definitely, through the years of going door to door, I will say two things. One, overall, like America is a great country. And overall, the folks that we met, just randomly going to the doors, trying to have these important conversations, people were kind. People were friendly. People care about this country. They care about their community. But you definitely would run into some people who were absolute characters. I definitely had a couple of people who just showed up in their skivvies, just showed up in their underwear. I don't know why. Well, why you would just pretend to not be home, but they show up that way. I had one, so I'm in Nebraska. One, it was snowing, and we're still going out to door for a candidate we supported. And I remember walking on one door and talking to this lady, and she goes, "You know what? I don't have a strong opinion. I was leaning towards the opponent, But the fact that you're out there walking through snow tells me you care about them so much. You seem like a nice person. I'll vote for your candidate. So it's just, it matters having these conversations, and you just never know where it will lead. So yeah, it's just, and that's kind of fun at the end of the day when you download with the team. I mean, it's hard work, right? When you're out all day knocking on doors, you don't know what kind of, feedback you're going to get from people. You never know who's going to let their dog out on you. And that's happened a couple of times. But just downloading at the end of the day over dinner about the stories that you had, the people that you met.
Yeah.
That's what makes AFP fun.
Yeah. I know of a current state director, I won't mention who it is, who went to a door in another state, and a lady opened up the door and she had like nothing on.
Yeah.
Not a stitch of clothing. Never happened to me, thankfully, but I mean, it's kind of amazing. I guess when you hit a lot of doors, that's happened.
Full birthday suit, but a little too close for comfort. Absolutely.
I would say. Okay, so what's something that you got to work on that you'd say you were most proud of at Americans for Prosperity?
It's a great question. I think the thing I was most proud of at AFP was, wasn't the first episode of American Potential, or one of the first, we had William Burt, the bartender, the barber, from Iowa. And at my time at AFP, again, this wasn't my story, but it was our Iowa team that built that relationship with Mr. Burt, was able to identify the government overregulation that was preventing this individual from just opening up his own barber shop, right? Pursuing his own American dream. And so that, and I was working when I was at AFP, I was working with the Iowa team as a regional. And, so I got a chance to meet Mr. Burt myself. I got to be there at the bill signing when Governor Reynolds of Iowa signed the bill into law that allowed William Burt to open up his own business. There's lots of great stories, but I think that was one. You did a great job interviewing Mr. Burt on that episode of the podcast. But I think that really, really encapsulates what AFP is about, why we do the work we do. It's not because of candidates. It's not because of politics. You try to go find those policy champions for sure and help them win. But it's not because of that. You care about the end result, right? You're actually trying to make government work for the people. And when you find those cases of government abuse, overregulation that's preventing somebody from being a contributor to society, from providing for their family, which is all William Burt was trying to do, and you can go in and through the process change the law and therefore change someone's life, change a community. I mean, that's exactly what this organization stands for. Yeah. So if I think of something I was most proud of because of the impact of that individual's life and the life for his family, but I think how well that story kind of crystallizes the mission of AFP. That was an incredible thing to be a part of in a small way.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I thought you would say on that, and that's great because that William Burt story is a tremendous one, and he was a great guest. I don't even know what episode that was. It was one of our first, might have been our first episode. It was maybe our first 3 or 4 episodes.
I don't want to say I know your podcast better than you, but I think it was I could be wrong, but I think it was the first.
I think it was too. Yeah. And he's great. So go back, and if you haven't ever listened to that episode, now over 200 episodes.
That's right.
Yeah, go back and listen to that one. That's a great one. But one of the things I thought you would have said as one of the things that you were most proud of working on was your work with Senator Ben Nelson of Nebraska and putting pressure, grassroots pressure on him on some issues, had folks standing out in the snow in front of his office, week after week after week. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the early days. So we actually launched the Nebraska chapter. It's how I got a job at AFP back in 2009 because we wanted to put pressure on then U.S. Senator Ben Nelson. We wanted to put pressure on him on cap and trade. Remember that kind of really government takeover of the energy sector?
Right.
It was a precursor to the terrible energy policies we have under the Biden-Harris administration, right? It would have sent energy prices, gas prices from the roof 15 years ago. So we were really happy to put that pressure on Ben Nelson, Senator Nelson, and get him to vote no on cap and at least not support cap and trade. And then also on the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. And that's kind of what you're referencing is when that issue just continued to build, and the frustration, especially for Nebraskans, but I think Americans across the country with the government takeover of healthcare. And correct me, Jeff, but since the passage of the Affordable Care Act, has the cost of healthcare gone down or up? Right? Has the healthcare system been improved or continue to get more difficult because there's more government regulation and bureaucracy and wasted cost? But we saw all that. We saw all of that, the threat that Obamacare posed. And so, we had every week, even including in the winter in Nebraska, when it gets bitter cold, people came in their boots, they came in their parkas, they laced up, and they were every week going respectfully. I mean, I think that's important to note, respectfully, but protested outside that office, redress of grievances, letting our elected officials know that this is a problem. So we were able to get Senator Nelson to do the right thing on cap and trade. We were unsuccessful on the Affordable Care Act. But one thing that I will always remember is that when Senator Nelson announced he was going to retire at the end of his term from the United States Senate, his quote in his press conference was, it's not because of the pressure from groups like Americans for Prosperity. So I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah. You got a little mention, huh?
Got a little mention. Absolutely.
That's great. Well, listen, did you ever think, as you look back on it, that so you were at AFP for what? How many years? 13 years, something like that? 12, 13 years?
Yeah, about 14 years. Yeah. That's right.
So did you ever think that you would make kind of the many friends that you did over that time period?
That's a great question, because when you accept a job, right, you think about all the different factors of what is the role? Am I a good fit for that role? Like, all these different factors that you think about, but you don't know. I mean, the unknowns, and the unknown is, who are the people that God's going to put in my life, right? You just don't know that until you go there. And that is the biggest blessing. If you ask the question about what I'm most proud of, policy victories, the stories, how we change people's lives, what we just shared, and you share every week on the podcast. But it's the people that I got to meet, right? Yourself, and I'm not, if I started naming names, I know I would feel bad because I'll forget someone. But there are folks that, when we were state directors, Jeff, in 2009 and 10, then more recently as regionals, like, these are individuals. I've been gone almost 2 years from AFP. There are lots of individuals I'm still in contact with every day. Very, very good friends. And what's cool about an organization like AFP is because you're nationwide, right? I mean, these are folks, I built friendships because of my work in Nebraska all across the state with, policy champions, grassroots activists. I got to build relationships and friendships across the state and across the country with other AFP staff. In fact, and one thing, it's kind of cool, just happened last week, the ripple effect of that, right? And just how God blesses you in your life with the people he puts in front of you is, Jeff, because of our friendship, right? And we've gone on lots of hunting and fishing trips together and have had a lot of fun. I've come out, I've got to meet your family. In Nebraska, we have a phrase, outkick my coverage. And that's exactly what I would say you would do with Lisa. Mm-hmm. She's much better than you deserve, but Mrs. Crank is a wonderful woman with a great family with your children. And because of, our friendship, I've been able to spend some time in Colorado, and I got to meet your community, right? And one person that I met in the last year, Chuck Gorman, the El Paso, Colorado County treasurer, right? Mm-hmm. His daughter played volleyball at Penn State. If you know anything about collegiate volleyball, Penn State is one of the greatest programs in the country. And my daughter, our oldest, she's in middle school. She loves volleyball. And because we made that kind of connection, he has sent her posters, like autographed posters of his daughter and her daughter's team from volleyball. And then last week, they sent us a little Penn State. It was like the team's ornament. It was like the Christmas gift when his daughter played. And they sent it to her, right? So now my daughter is building relationships with her heroes, these like star volleyball players, because of a connection I made because of our friendship, right? And so it's just, I will always, for the rest of my life, be grateful for AFP because of the people I got to meet.
Yeah. Well, and that's so true. A great story. And And Chuck's a great guy, and you're a great guy, so I'm glad that all worked out. And I'm glad that you didn't actually mention anybody but me, just left me as the only one, and everybody else remained nameless. That was good.
Yeah, everybody else is secondary. Absolutely.
Yeah, you know how to suck up to a host. That's very good. I'm very
You're
proud
the
of
only
you.
one with the microphone, Jeff.
That's right. See, you're very smart. Very smart man, Brad.
Drew Klein hasn't done anything for me lately. So
Not
Jeff,
a thing. Not a thing.
That's right.
One thing we like to do, though, is give each other a hard time, and I'm going to ask Matt to help me out on this, right? I called you one day letting you know, well, I didn't call you, but I had a call made to you letting know that you'd signed up for something, and you seemed like really adamant to make sure that you canceled the subscription, right? Do you know what I'm talking about, Brad? Yes?
I've tried to just push this back in the recesses of my memory, my brain.
All right. Well, let's take a listen to it, and then we'll comment about it. This was a call.
How long is this interview? Aren't we supposed to wrap up?
No, not yet. We got plenty of time. Podcasting, we could go hours and hours if we needed to. We won't here, but this was a call that I had arranged and placed to you and signed you up for a subscription that you wanted to cancel. Here we go.
I need something stronger than coffee for this.
Hello, this is Brad.
Thanks for signing up for Cat Facts. You will now receive a daily phone call with a fun fact about cats. To cancel this subscription, say cancel.
Cancel.
Cats bury their feces to cover their trails from predators. That's your daily fact. Thanks for using Cat Facts.
Cancel.
I'm sorry,
Cancel.
I didn't understand
Cancel.
that. To stop your subscription to Cat Facts, say stop.
Stop.
You wish to cancel your subscription. Please confirm your security question to proceed. What is your favorite animal? I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Please try again. Cats use their tails for balance and have nearly 30 individual bones in them. To cancel your subscription to Daily Cat Facts, say cancel.
Cancel.
Please confirm your security question. What is your favorite animal?
Cat.
Incorrect. Your favorite animal is the walrus. You will continue to receive daily phone facts.
Cancel. Stop.
Courtesy of prankowl.com.
All right.
How much did you pay for that? What was the cost of that?
Zero. If I'd have paid $1 million for that, it would have been worth every penny that I paid. Brad, that was.
And how many times have you played it since? You have gotten your money's worth.
Thousands. I mean, that is one of the most requested pieces of audio that I have in my repertoire. That is affectionately known as Cat Facts, of course, Brad. What I love about it is that you literally stayed on the line. You were very polite. You didn't swear. I was very proud of you, Brad.
Well, that's called Nebraska nice, Jeff. But I learned a lesson that night. I instituted a policy. That was the last time I picked up a phone call from an unknown number. You screen your calls, everybody. I screen my calls from now on because of that moment played right there.
Yeah. Well, my favorite part, I had no idea that your favorite animal was, in fact, the walrus.
Neither did I. That's another thing I learned on that call.
But how about the Cat Facts? I mean, those are some pretty interesting things that you learned.
Yeah, I learned an awful lot of facts about cats. And thankfully, because you playing this the thousands and thousands of times, I literally have people to this. What year do you think you did that?
I don't know. That was a long time. I mean, that probably, if I had to guess, like maybe, 2012?
12 or 13. So 10 years, a decade ago.
A decade. It's been a classic for a decade. Yeah.
Craig, if I had a nickel for every text that I have received from just random people, just randomly of a cat fact.
Yeah.
I would be a very rich man.
You know what? If you'd like, we could put your cell phone number at the bottom of the screen, and people could just text you cat facts. If you're okay, we would be happy to do that.
Let's just, since Matt was your helper here, he was your Robin.
Yeah.
Let's put Matt's number up there.
You want to do
and
that?
He can send them to you.
All right, we'll do that. He'll forward the good ones to you. Does that sound good?
Matt can forward the good ones over.
All right. Well, you've never tried to prank me, though, have you? Have you ever pranked me?
No, I don't. I don't think I have. And I'm not really I don't think I'm really a prankster. So no, I don't think I've ever pranked you, though you're due. You're past due. It really should happen. But if I was going to think of it wasn't really a joke on you. You were kind of in on it. But when you bring that up, one thing that I remember is, so back in, the 9, 10, 11, 12, we had these bus tours at Americans for Prosperity going across the country on different issues. And, we had one where I-80 that goes through Nebraska, it's a very popular thoroughfare. And so we have these 3 or 4 buses in different corners of the country driving all over. And so the buses were coming through Nebraska through I-80, trying to get through different places all the time. So it was the third time in 3 months that a bus was coming through Nebraska, and they wanted me to set up events all along I-80. And so this would be the third time in 3 months I'd do an event in North Platte, Nebraska on the same issue. And I'm just I don't know how many times people are going to turn out to do the same event that quick a time period. So I'm I'm kind of nervous about attendance. So I said, Jeff, at the time you had a radio show, local radio show in Colorado Springs. And you told me, you had shared with me before that sometimes if Rush Limbaugh was not on air that day, sometimes they'd have you come in and you would fill that slot on the local radio show. Yes. So to build up attendance, I'm not proud of this. It was getting a little fast and loose, right? But it wasn't straight dishonest. So what we did was have Jeff join, the bus would go through Colorado, and then what we'd have you do is come through Nebraska as well. And then to advertise the event, we'd say, come meet Jeff Crank, the fill-in for Rush Limbaugh. Now, we didn't say in just one local media market in Colorado Springs. Yeah. So people are expecting this big national radio personality. That's right. But, that's all we had to say. The fill-in for Rush Limbaugh. And gosh darn it, people showed up. Did they not, Jeff?
They did. Did
you not have people asking you for their autograph?
I don't remember that part of it. I don't think I did. I don't know about that. But that's not quite as good as Cat Facts, but it was good. And I want people to understand I was not in on that. That was all you. You were the one that decided to do that, right?
That was all me. But, in this line of work, Jeff, you do what you do what it takes.
You got to make the sale. You know what I mean?
You do what it takes.
That's right. Well, that was funny. You probably wouldn't do that today. AFP is a different organization
for
sure.
More mature. We get mature as we age, right, Jeff?
No, I'd still do Cat Facts again right now today if I thought I could pull it off on you.
100%. That reminds me. So you were also there. When we were doing the bus. It was another bus tour, and we're going out through western Nebraska. And when you get hit North Platte, Nebraska, the western roughly third of the state, you move from central time zone to mountain time zone. Mm-hmm. And we did the event, I believe, in North Platte and then Ogallala. Mm-hmm. And in Ogallala, you are in the mountain time zone, and no one was there. And no one showed up. What happened? Come to realize, and that's another lesson learned, always triple check time, date, and location for an event invitation before it goes out. Our headquarters, I sent out the invitations. I didn't triple check, and I didn't catch that we didn't adjust for the time zone change. And so we were there an hour early before we had advertised the event. So no one was there. And realized, this is going to happen again when we get out to Sydney, farther west. And so we're on the bus. We're like, what do you do to try to get some people out to try to save the event? And so I called the local radio, the local talk radio show, and I'm like, hey, what would you charge to do a live remote to get some media, to get some value out of the event? And I'm not sure what they're going to charge. I think it's a lot. They're like, $120 deal. So we have the local radio station come out. Again, there's like a handful of people, neighborhood folks who got there way early. We had all this food spread out, nobody there but me and you and a couple people. And they just give me it was actually an app on his cell phone from the radio station. They're like, well, you're live. And I remember saying, well, we're here with a great crowd at the Holiday Inn in Sydney. Come on down. We got food. We got radio host Jeff Crank. Come on down. And we just did the event as if there was a great crowd instead of 4. The time at AFP was fun. We had absolutely had some great times out on the road and doing this work together, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely have. Last question. Some of your best memories while at AFP. What can you, other than cat facts, what else?
Is there anything other
Probably
than cat
not.
facts?
Okay, what's your second favorite memory at AFP other than cat facts?
Absolutely. I would say, I think that being with the team, right? So obviously, we had a great team of Jeff and I, we had served as a great team with regional directors that kind of help manage and lead the state teams throughout the state, and then being with my team, the state directors and their state chapters and all the members of their teams, trying to build that team within a team or that culture within a culture. Because when we started in 2009, right, AFP was still, it wasn't small. It was still, right, we were able to do national tours, national campaigns. Like, it was a big organization doing big things. But it was still at a size where you felt like you could really know everyone else. And it just blew up, right? The organization just got because of the success that we've had, just kept growing and growing. And that's a blessing. That's an amazing thing, because, if it wasn't for AFP, like, I don't know where the conservative movement would be, where the conservative grassroots movement would be. It's an amazing thing that AFP does. But as it's growing, I felt like you had to kind of really build that team within a team, that culture in a culture, so that you really knew that you had a place to be, right? That you fit in, that there were other people you knew and knew well, and you knew what they were going through and they knew what you were going through. So if you ever needed help, you needed to get somebody on the phone, you just needed to talk through a problem, had a question, you absolutely had, as you said, that work family that was there, and they knew what you were going through and they could help you. And so it's those relationships, right, that we've been talking about throughout. That's what's always going to stand out to me. That's the blessing that I received from AFP. Being able to, doing some of the policy work that we did. I will never forget that. So when Senator Nelson retired, and then we had that open seat in Nebraska, and then we had our former governor and former Democrat United States Senator Bob Kerrey. He was now the president of a university out in New York, flirting with the idea of coming back to Nebraska and running for that seat. And the moment that he said that he was going to run, AFP in Nebraska was up with television ads. AFP in Nebraska was organizing on the ground to remind people about his record, right? We have Deb Fisher instead of Bob Kerrey in the United States Senate, right? And I really think that change from when Nebraska had moderate to liberal, Ben Nelson, Bob Kerrey, members of our federal delegation, to now having the solid federal delegation that we have now of policy champions, both in the House and the Senate and the governor's office, right? Like, I really believe that AFP was a big part of that change in our state, right? And I think AFP has played that role in a lot of states throughout the country and is playing that role nationally. But as a proud Nebraskan, I really think that this organization, the amount of investment that it has made in Nebraska, was a game changer for us. So if you're going to ask something we haven't really kind of talked about, but not really, of one of the things that I'm really grateful for and excited about what AFP has done, is the change, the transformation of my home state that I really think AFP played a big part in.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Brad, thank you for being with us. Thanks for your friendship through the years and for doing so much for the cause. It's been great. And who knew that your favorite animal was a walrus? I mean, before today, just me and you. And
I I learned an awful lot. So well, I look forward to getting out on another hunt or fishing trip with you, Jeff. I know you got a couple of different things going on, but I look forward to that. So
all right, Brad.
Appreciate you having me on.
You got it, buddy. Thanks for being with us.
Just three things you need to hear, Jeff, before I go.
Okay.
God is love. America is the greatest country in the world, and go Big Red.
I heard you just say two things. Two things, but I do agree with you on those first two. Yes.
There's three things. God is love. America is great. Go Big Red. Hey, how are your CU Buffs doing?
He never ends.
Because you can tell, I kind of lost my voice over the weekend. Nebraska dismantled your CU Buffs over the weekend.
They're not my CU Buffs. We won't even get into that.
Yes, sir.
Cancel.
All right, hey,
Cancel.
Truly, congratulations on the success of the podcast. Thanks for having me on.
All right, buddy. Thank you for being with us. Appreciate it. Listen, Brad told a lot of great stories. It's been great. The last 15 years that I've been at Americans for Prosperity at the network there, and you see the saving freedom, working to instill liberty in the hearts of people and defend liberty. It can also be a little bit fun too. And we've had some of that through the years. American Potential Podcast is always out there looking for stories to help keep you inspired, keep you informed. The best way to do that and to stay connected is by liking us on one of our channels, either on the YouTube channel, on Facebook, on Twitter. And if you know of a great story, someone working to expand freedom and opportunity that you think we should share, go to our website, AmericanPotential.com, fill out our Share Your Story section. We'd love to tell those stories. It's been great having Brad on. Thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for being with us, and thanks for defending liberty and freedom.
Thank you for listening to American Potential. You may listen to more stories from Americans working every day to expand freedom and opportunity in their communities by visiting AmericanPotential.com.